What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Jay Rich, back to bring your MLB props for Tuesday, August 23rd. Yesterday, unfortunately, not the best day for the props. Brandon Lau did not play, and Paul Goldschmidt decided to shit the bed in a great spot. So we are back today with more picks and bets, and so let's just dive straight into it. No reason to delay it any further. Let's talk about the props today. Adley Rutschman, Cedric Mullins, Josh Rojas, Alex Bregman, Christian Walker, Paul Goldschmidt again, Luis Robert, Juan Soto, and again, Brandon Lau for unders. So right off the bat, let's start with the Baltimore matchup up against Dylan Cease. Dylan Cease was was rained out 2 days ago, and so today he is up against Baltimore. Slightly better matchup, I think, for him overall, especially if you're looking at his K props. I don't love it, but I think he's got a better shot of going over in this one, at least compared to Cleveland. But now to Rutschman and Mullins. I'm looking at both these guys who've been playing pretty well right now. You see 9 points over the last 14 days, 13.2 over the last 7. Looks like Mullins is a slightly better play, and obviously there is the stolen base upside with Mullins as well. And then you get the more RBI upside from Adley Rutschman. So it kind of depends on which way you want to go with both these guys. I personally think that Cedric Mullins is the better play, while I'm probably not playing either of them. If you wanted to pick one, I think Mullins is the better play. You know, he'll probably get more at-bats against Cease, all those various reasons. So I think Mullins would be the best play between the two. But again, the reason why you're looking at them at all against Cease is because their totals are only 5 on PrizePicks. I think that 5 is pretty low for both of them, and you see that Rutschman has a 500 average against Cease and 2 at-bats, so he's only faced him once, and Cedric Mullins is 3 for 8 against Dylan Cease. So they do have a bit of a history. It's not a massive history. No home runs, no RBIs, nothing crazy, but I mean, something is better than nothing, right? But you see the biggest issue here is the slider. They are not hitting the slider well. Neither one of them is. And if Cease really wants to use that slider today, they could be in big trouble. They've been hitting the fastball pretty well, at least Mullins has, which is the reason why I like him a little bit more than Rutschman, but the slider could be a big problem for both those guys. So that's the main reason why I'm not all in on them, and I'd be willing to fade them if that's the way you want to go. Then getting into Josh Rojas, who we've talked about a lot because he was on a bit of a streak for a while. He was stealing a ton of bases. Recently, he's had hits in multi-hit games in 3 of his last 4 games. So what do we do with him, though? You know, in this matchup against John Helsley, who's been pretty bad. You know, his last start wasn't so bad, but the previous 2 were god-awful. So, I mean, are we going to play Arizona today when they do have higher totals of 7? They are playing in KC, which does matter a little bit because the pitch factor isn't quite as bad as it would be if it was in Arizona. I don't know. I mean, you see how bad Helsley's been, and you see how bad the Kansas City Royals bullpen has been overall. But Rojas is a guy I'm not fully bought in on right now. I look at some of the guys like Bregman. I look at the guy like Walker, who we know he's got the home run upside, right, that we just don't have from Josh Rojas. But Rojas has been hitting the ball pretty well. So if you did want to take a shot on Rojas, you see the pitch factor is very good in his favor. He's been hitting fastballs really well, like I mentioned. You probably need a multi-hit game from Rojas or a steal, which he hasn't been doing as much lately. But like I said, he does have multi-hits in 3 of his last 4. He's been playing particularly well, so I don't hate it overall. I still like Goldschmidt a lot against Javier Assad. Assad's making his first MLB start today, and he's got the St. Louis Cardinals. So he could be in trouble. He's not the worst pitcher ever. I was looking at some of his stats. He's, fine, about a 2.5 ERA in the minors, not a bad whip, not a crazy high strikeout rate, doesn't walk a ton of guys. So he could be fine. He's probably not going to go very long, and we know that Cubs bullpen is definitely something to be targeting when you're talking about player props. So I do like Paul Goldschmidt again, even though he failed me yesterday, but you see the streak he's been on. He's been playing particularly well, so I do want to ride that out. While he's not quite as high as he was yesterday because, again, he did struggle. He went 0 for 4 with, I believe, 2 strikeouts, but he's still got a great shot against a pitcher who has very little experience in the majors. Paul Goldschmidt's still one of the best hitters in all of baseball. He could hit the ball out today. I would be a little bit worried about the weather, so just check that. Just make sure that's okay. But I do like Goldschmidt today. I would definitely be playing him. And I think I'm going back to Alex Bregman as well. Both these guys have a bit of not quite a revenge game narrative for Bregman, but Sanchez has a revenge game narrative for him up against Houston, now pitching in Minnesota. Is he going to show up in this one is really the question, because Sanchez has been terrible all year. He I don't know if he took a break or went just like stopped pitching, was hurt, whatever it was, but came back and pitched pretty well last start. So we'll see how he looks in this one. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's still the Houston Astros. Bregman's still on a tear. Tucker's still on a tear batting behind him. I just really like 7.5. I mean, well, you know, he's not doing it as much recently, and he obviously still riding off that 55 bomb he put up not a few days ago. He does bat. He is 2 for 5 off of Sanchez with a home run and 3 RBIs, so that is encouraging, right? He has a bit of a history against Sanchez, and I think that was even back when Sanchez was on the Blue Jays because they were teammates not a few years ago when Sanchez was traded to Houston. So that history is a ways back, but it's not the time when he was in Houston when he was really bad, and then the time this year I don't believe they played each other. So I do like Bregman quite a bit. I would pair him with Goldschmidt, and then you're looking at Josh Rojas as a potential third guy. If you want to flex him in, I don't mind that. I'd definitely be power playing Goldschmidt and Bregman at 7.5 and 8.5. I think they're both in good matchups. And then let's get into the unders. So we have Luis Robert here up against Austin Voth, who, again, Baltimore's bullpen is phenomenal. Voth has been pretty good. You know, he's not going to go too deep into a game, but he will pitch particularly well when he does. Robert's been struggling lately with only 4 points over the last 14 and the last 7. He has been getting a hit per game, though, which is encouraging over the last 14 days. Just he's not getting a ton of RBIs. He's not scoring runs. It's just he's getting singles and he's walking, and that's about it. And that's the biggest problem for him right now. Then getting into Juan Soto for an under, which was really interesting to me because I did not expect him to be so low, but part of the reason is because Aaron Civale has been pitching so well lately. It's very difficult to fade a guy who's as good as Juan Soto is, but the issue is he's been okay. Like, he hasn't been phenomenal by any stretch. He's getting about a hit per game. He's walking a ton. But if his team isn't driving him in and they're not scoring runs, that's when things kind of can fall apart a little bit for Soto. And so batting average-wise, he's been okay, but he's walking a ton, so his on-base percentage stays very high. Again, he's still got a total of 8. Savale's been phenomenal over his past few starts. And so, again, if you want to take another play, if you want to take the over on his strikeouts, if they're still at 4 on PrizePicks, I do like it. If they're at 4.5, you know, be cautious because that's going to be plus money on the books. But he's 3.5 on the books right now. I believe it's minus 140. It'll probably flip to 4.5 in no time. That line was already moving today, but I do really like his line over 4 strikeouts. That was kind of giving me my bonus play outside of the hitter props. So I would definitely put together Bregman, Paul Goldschmidt, and then Civale over 4 strikeouts. You know, I've been playing Civale a lot lately, so I'm not all out on Soto. I just think that he's been a little bit boomer bust lately, and I think that Civale could definitely have a good start against the Padres today, and obviously not as many weather concerns in San Diego, which is always nice. And then getting into Brandon Lau, who did not play yesterday, and so I was considering fading him again today. He's up against Jose Suarez, who is a lefty, and so there is a bit of a factor there. I was looking up some splits for Brandon Lau this morning, and he does hit lefties particularly well. He slugs over 500 against lefties, so you could play him for an under. You see the way he's struggling, 2.6 over his last 14, 4 points over his last 7. He's kind of getting out of his slump a little bit. Rosarena as well is playing really, really well. Didn't mind him for an over, but he didn't quite hit my thresholds I like to see. So, again, Suarez has been pitching well. The pitch factor does not look great for Brandon Lau, but he does slug better against lefties than righties. So if he does get a hold of one, he could drive into a gap and be pretty close to that 6.5. So, again, I think it's a play that you could make. I just be cautious about it because there is a chance that he does go over, and that's basically the main reason why I'm not all in on Brandon Lau. I think for the plays that we're looking at today, I like Josh Rojas. I think he's a flex option. I wouldn't be all in on him. I'd probably be building a core of Alex Bregman, Paul Goldschmidt, hitters, fantasy scores, overs, and Aaron Civale, his strikeout total over. I was looking at Corbin Burns. I'm not loving it at 7. He only had 6 against the Dodgers in his last start when he pitched on, I believe, the 18th. So I'm not loving that number. You're looking at some of the other strikeout guys. Again, it's hard sometimes. You see some value, and sometimes it just makes you think, I don't know, man. I may just want to stay away from it. So overall, that's kind of what I'm looking at right now. Who else do I got here? Yeah, Nick Lodolo was another guy I was looking at. His line is 6 on PrizePicks. Dane Dunning, if it's 3.5, I don't mind that one. He is pitching in cores, I believe, today, so that's why his total is a little bit depressed, but I think he can go over. But that's kind of looking at for strikeouts right now. Not a ton either way. Zach Logue or Laug or whatever his name is, he's up against Miami today. I'm looking at him for an under. He's 4 on PrizePicks right now, which is pretty high for what he's been doing lately. So those are guys I'm kind of looking at. I think that Goldschmidt and Bregman look really good. Lau for an under if you want it, but again, the splits aren't great against lefties. Josh Rojas could potentially be good for an over, and then you're looking at Aaron Civale's strikeouts over 4, and then you're also looking at, I believe Nick Lodolo was the other one at 6. Those are kind of the guys I like today. Make sure to drop me a like and subscribe for future content. As always, if you tail, give them hell, and if we fail, do not bail. I'll be back tomorrow with more MLB bets and picks. Until then, I'm out. Peace.
He's got it! What a catch by Mookie Betts.
A lot of names that if you're not a Pirates fan, you probably
probably don't
He's
know.
the closest thing we've seen to Mike Trout.
Yeah, the best team in the American League.
The Yankees have the most intimidating lineup in baseball.